Today, we're going to talk about the impact of the China virus with an American in China right now. So sit back, grab your cup of coffee, and let's get started. Hello, this is Michael Loftus for Wealth and Wisdom TV, where education is the key to a successful financial future. First up, don't forget, click show more for additional information and links on today's video. We're going to have a bunch down there for you. Also, if you're looking for a different opinion, that of Wall Street and Big TV, please do consider subscribing. So today we have something special. I know in our last video, we've talked about China. We've talked about the impact of the China virus. Also, last month, I happened to do a book review on the 100-year marathon, which was also about China. Now, that's about more talking about the tariffs and the impact and, really what was going on there. But obviously, this virus right now is a huge thing, not only in China, but worldwide from an economic standpoint. So I thought that there's no better way to get some insight than to bring somebody in who is in China right now, an American in China, somebody I used to work with. And let me bring in Patrick Freeman. Hello, Patrick. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Michael? It's good to see you. Good to talk to you. Appreciate you having me on your show there. I'm really excited. It's been a long time, brother. Like over 10 years since we've seen each other.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So Patrick and I worked together on the distribution side of the financial world for the same company for years, different divisions. I did have at the end there some responsibilities on the bank channel, but I think most importantly, as he and I both left the comfy confines of corporate America, we both left and chose different and unique paths. Obviously, we know about my path. It is considered different, even though I'm a boring financial advisor. Patrick went the more dynamic and fun one. So real quick, let's talk about what's going on. What are you doing? And why are you in China?
Well, after 2008 and several layoffs, probably 3 or 4 after that, the one that I experienced at our former employer, I decided to go into the voiceover business. One thing led to another, and the business allowed me actually to generate some royalties that allowed me to start traveling a little bit more. So I traveled to China for about 3 weeks, fell in love with the city, which was Chongqing. This is the city that I visited, and fell in love with the city, the language, the food, the people, and I said, I got to come back. So I went back to the United States. The best way to get a work visa quickly is getting a TEFL certificate, teaching English as a foreign language, and got my work visa, and I've been here about 17, 18 months now teaching. I only teach about 12 to 15 hours a week. I also do voiceover work. I still narrate audiobooks, and I've got a YouTube channel that documents my travels here in China. So
Great.
That's what brought me here.
And we'll make sure, obviously, we'll have a link below on that. And that's I have followed Patrick's career. I've sent him a couple messages congratulating him over the years. And I watched his most recent video and was like, wow. So that's how I reached out and, put together this call. So let's talk about, first off, what's it like living in China as an American citizen?
It's wonderful. The people are very curious. Chongqing is a city of about 33 million people, so it's huge, and most people have never heard it until I mentioned it. But 33 million people here, and you would think it would be more westernized. When you look at Shanghai, when you look at Beijing, there's a lot of foreigners and expats that live there. There's not a lot here. Percentage-wise, I mean, it's a very small number. There's probably maybe 15,000 expats here in Chongqing. So I mean, it's kind of a scenic route to answer your question. The people are very curious about Westerners, especially people like myself. I don't know if you could tell, but I've got blue eyes, somewhat brown blonde hair, and they're fascinated with it. So people are always staring at me, and it's not like an uncomfortable stare, but it's just a curious stare. And then often I have people ask me, "What brought you here? Why are you here?"
Ah, you back?
You there?
Okay, so go ahead and pick up. You were talking about your blonde eyes, and
Take a
people
left.
were curious. Go ahead and talk. Make sure we're working again.
Say it again.
Everything stopped, so go ahead and talk. I want to make sure it's working again.
Okay. Yeah. So what part did you? Where did it stop when I was talking?
Okay, it stopped, and you said people were curious, not in a weird way about your blonde hair, but just curious. That's all. So
Yeah.
about the
So
city
I
of
was.
Chongqing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you were asking me about how I felt here as an American, and I have felt very welcomed. The people are very curious about foreigners, and they've been very welcoming. And I've always felt safe here. I've probably felt safer here than I've felt in some places in the United States. So it's a good place to live.
Cool. It's very interesting. So, are there now those 15,000 Americans? Is there a meeting place? Is there like a local bar you all go to, or to get a little talk of home, or
You know, so yeah, some of them do. I'm kind of older. It's usually younger. I'm 50, so I kind of tend to do my own thing with my videos and spending time with my girlfriend and her son. Uh, but there are a lot of expats that go to the local bars and hang out. The expats are a very tight knit group of individuals just because the situation that they're living in, and
sure?
they need that support and camaraderie and somebody else that actually speaks English. So yeah, the expats do it. You said 15,000 Americans. It's actually expats. So
Okay,
we got people from Denmark, we got people from Germany, France, Canada. They're
okay,
from all over the world here, but only 15,000 total expats.
okay. So let's get into the conversation on what's happening in the virus. And I'm not an expert on where you live. I did look, and I think it looks like about 12 hours from Wuhan, which is, I guess, you would consider the epicenter of the virus. So first,
Yes.
let's talk about when I saw your videos the other days, and I'll bring in some images of that. I mean, it was a ghost town, and you're 12 hours away. So tell
Hmm.
me about what's going on, what you're allowed to do, etc. What are you being told you can do?
Okay. All right. Well, so let me go back so Hubei is a province,
Hubei.
and
Okay.
Wuhan is one of that province. Wuhan has about 11,000 people, or population of 11,000. Right before New Year started, and right before, actually somewhere about the same time that the virus started to break news, there was about probably 7 million people that left the city. A lot of people are speculating it was because of the virus. Well, it was actually because this is one of the biggest migrations that happens anywhere on the planet. Is Chinese New Year's. People just leave their cities. They quit work for about 2 weeks and they go visit family. So there was quite a few people that left right about the time that the virus came out. Chongqing is really right adjacent to the Hubei province. And a lot of those people came into this area. So right now we have probably over 500 cases here in Chongqing, which, I mean, relative to what's going on in Wuhan and the Hubei province, it's nothing. But we still had quite a few people that came through here and have probably, brought the virus.
Okay.
By
Interesting.
train, by high-speed train from Chongqing, it's about a 3-hour high-speed train ride, maybe about 4 hours. So about a 12-hour drive, like you had said. So distance-wise, it sounds far, but essentially what happened was we had people come to us because of the New Year's, because of the time off, and brought the virus to Chongqing. So Chongqing is getting hit relatively hard compared to Wuhan. As far as what we can do, uh, just the other day, my girlfriend showed me this notification from property management that we can only leave the property itself. So we live in an apartment complex or housing complex, high rise, and we can leave the place and stay on the compound without any problems. But to actually go outside through the security gate to go to the grocery store, to go, wherever, pick up supplies, we're only allowed to leave once every 2 days. Now, there are some other communities within Chongqing that I've heard is once every 3 days. So I think it's kind of, I think the reason why we're one out of every 2 days is because where we actually live, we're about kind of 6 or 7 miles from where all the cases are in Chongqing. So the places that are telling their tenants you can't leave but once every 3 days, that's where the concentration of the virus, the cases of the virus are.
Wow. How many people live in your high rise?
Probably in our community, it's actually a relatively small community. It's a new community, and there's a lot of houses that aren't purchased or rented out. But I would say just in my community, maybe 1,000.
Okay.
If you'd asked me this question before I moved here, the place that I lived on the 30th floor, and it was actually considered one of the larger apartment complexes in Chongqing. Just in one apartment division, there was close to 40,000 people that lived in this one place.
Oh my God. Well, living in Bethany Beach, Delaware, we have, I think, about 10,000 people. During the summertime, we go to about 200,000. So that's amazing. So, I saw you the other day when you went out and you went to the market. I mean, is it safe to eat the food, or are there certain foods? I mean, I hear all these stories, and obviously there's a lot of, one would call delicacies over there, we would call a little bit different. So,
Yeah, yeah.
are you worried about that? Are you eating your normal diet, or?
No, I'm eating my normal diet. I mean, a fish, pork, chicken, lots of vegetables, lots of fruit. The exotic food. I was researching this today, and I was actually talking to a fellow, or just a Chinese friend here, and he was saying that what happened in Wuhan as far as like the exotic animals. He says most of the population don't really want to eat the bats and want to eat the koalas and all these things that have been mentioned in the Western media. He says it's a very small percentage of people who actually do that, and it's usually people of means and resources and has the money and maybe the ego to say that, hey, I just ate koala the other night or bat the other night. It's not something that's, at least where I live, I haven't seen any strange exotic animals in the market. I've seen some fish that I've never seen, eel that I've never seen before. I mean, they eat a lot of frog. They have frog soup, but nothing just exotic or strange like that. So I'm not concerned about it at all. Feel very safe in eating the food here. I very,
Okay.
knock on wood when I say this, I very rarely gotten sick. I mean, occasionally I've actually gotten more sick from some of the fruits from not washing it as well as I should have, as opposed to the meat. Because when you cook the meat, you either boil it in water for an extended period, or you've got it in grease and you're cooking it. They cook their food very well here, so
Yeah.
not concerned at all.
So in the video the other day, I saw you obviously with your mask on. It seemed like a pretty high-tech mask. So when you leave your complex, you're pretty much, I mean, you don't have it on inside your home there, but when you go around, everyone's wearing their mask, right? Pretty much.
Yes, yes. It's not required that I have the mask when I'm walking around on the compound the apartment compound property.
Okay.
But when I step outside of the, it's required that you have it on. Now, I have seen the occasional person not wearing their mask, but 98, 99% of the people outside of the community are definitely wearing their mask. And not only that, and I noticed this yesterday or a couple of days ago, when somebody's coming the opposite direction towards you, normally you just walk right by them. You might be a foot from them, but I'm noticing myself and also the person walking towards me, we're kind of giving each other a wider berth than normal,
Yeah.
just because of, thinking, okay, I wonder if they have it. Just in case, I better kind of walk around them. So not only are we wearing masks, but we're, avoiding each other and giving each other a couple of meters space to walk past each other.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things, and just want to get a feel for this, right? So, last week I posted some photos in Shanghai. Again, your videos from this weekend, I mean, nobody's out there. It looks like, you have these high rises in ghost towns. And so from my standpoint and what I do every day, the impact of that globally, I mean, obviously China is, so much of our world consumption. Is everything shut down? Like a lot of the major U.S. corporations there, the McDonald's, Starbucks, Nike, Burger King announced yesterday, they've all shut down. Is pretty much everything shut down, or like what's going on economically, if you would?
No, yeah, it's shut down. I mean, I've never seen a government go to the measure that they have to keep this virus from spreading, and they have shut everything down. The government's not working. I would say the government's not working in their offices. People are working out of their homes via video and through the internet. Schools are shut down. Students aren't going to the private schools, which, as you know, education is really big. After school, they've got school. So, I mean, everything is shut down. When you walk out where I'm at, and I had a friend send me some video of where he's at, and he's actually in one of the areas that's really busy. I mean, where you see thousands of people walking around and it's dead. And I've seen pictures from Shenzhen, you name it, Beijing. It is shut down. So, yeah, I think financially it's going to be more than just a hiccup. I've been out of the investment world for so long. You're probably one to better make the call on this, but I will tell you, living here and being on the ground, this country is shut down. There's talk of people going back to work next week. The subways, or at least the light rail systems here in Chongqing, are starting to open back up. But when you walk outside, mom and pop shops, the restaurants, they're closed. There's the occasional convenience store that's open. The grocery stores are open, which I think is a priority. They'd be open. But people aren't doing anything. They're staying home and they're protecting their families and doing what the government is asking them to do so that the virus is not spread. And I'll have to say this. The government I have to give kudos to the government for doing this, but they've directed, not only for themselves, but for corporations, that they pay at least 70% of their salary. Now, if it goes on for an extended period, I guess they could change their mind as far as that directive. But right now, corporations and governments are paying their employees at minimum 70% of their regular salary. My concern actually is for the mom and pop shops. If people aren't going to their restaurants to eat, or if you're a service person, or if you have a plumbing store, hardware store, people, I mean, they're closed down. They're not making any money. So
Wow.
It'll be interesting to see how the government takes care of these individuals. But overall, corporations and government agencies are paying their people. I mean, as you know, we talked about it earlier, but I teach part-time, like 12 to 15 hours a week. I got my paycheck 2 days ago, and which I'm very grateful and thankful for. But it's shut down. It's kind of a long-winded answer, and there's so much I could talk about. I mean, talk about this for 2 or 3 hours, but everything is shut down, and it's going to it's going to be felt worldwide to the extent. I'll leave that in
Yeah.
your professional plate there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting. First off, so our viewers understand the way that the majority of the corporations work in China is it's half of it's owned, or 51%, by the government. So, that's how they do things there. And, so that is obviously a good thing. But, the impact, we don't know yet. I think we saw it a couple weeks ago in the oil market. We saw it yesterday. They said they're 26 million barrels less because China consumes so much of oil. And we've seen that market, I dare say, crash, right? The commodity market has gone down because of the import and exports, right? Because you can't get stuff in and out right now. And also, and I'll show some images later, the countries around that work so closely with China, we're seeing it as well. Not seeing in our stock market here in the U.S., but that's a whole nother circumstance. So how do you feel? Are you nervous? Are you comfortable? I mean, this, for an American looking at this, it's scary. I mean, and you're right in the heart of it. And now what you just told me about how many cases there and everything else. How do you feel about this, and how do you process it?
I'll say this, and I won't go. I'll just share. First of all, I'm a man of faith, and my faith keeps me strong. And it's really been, considering the circumstance, it's been very peaceful for me. Not, you hate to see people suffer, and you hate to see people die and people lose family members. But I'm just thankful that I'm at peace right now with everything that's going on. I think part of it too is, we're being smart, we're being diligent, we're making sure that we wash our hands. Whenever we go outside and we return back into the house, we wash our hands thoroughly. I even spray bleach on the bottom of my shoes every time we come back in. We steam the mask to clean, kill any germs or bacteria. Also, where we live, there's not that many cases. There's 2 cases north of us by 6 miles, and 1 case south of us by about 5 or 6 miles. So, and it hadn't changed. It's remained the same. And that has a lot to do with the government telling people to stay inside. It's not being spread like I thought it would be. So knowing where we're at is helped, and knowing that a lot of cases closed really helped, give me some peace about the situation. So I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah, it's definitely surreal to be here. I mean, the last time I remember when SARS came out, and just being disconnected from it, watching it on TV, thinking, oh, how bad is that? And then going back outside and mowing the lawn and not thinking about it again until I went back in and watched the news. But now when you're here, I mean, it's 24/7. You are thinking about it. I'm not worrying about it. You think about it. You do research, and you're concerned about your fellow citizens here in the area. And but it's the diligence and making sure that you do everything the government tells you to do.
So the one thing you haven't said is, I might be going back to the U.S. Not a consideration?
No, it's not. I've been asked that question several times, and no, I love my girlfriend, I love her son, I love her parents. One thing about the Chinese culture is they have been very accepting of me. Her family has been very accepting of me, and I feel like if I left, I would be doing them a disfavor. And I think it's the honorable, and I'm not trying to be the martyr here or anything like that, but I think it's the honorable thing to do and stay here and weather this together. The other issue is, to be honest with you, I wouldn't want to get on a plane. I mean, we haven't talked about this, but you've got the 2 cruise ships, you've got 6,000 people quarantined, and just recently, within the past 24 hours, you've had an additional 100+ cases on one of those ships, and it's because they are confined into one space. The circulation in ships, as you know, is not very good, so they're rebreathing everybody else's air, and that's the reason why those cases skyrocketed in the cruise ship. So my bridge from that to the airplane is it's no different. You're in an airplane. We all know that the circulation in the airplane is not very good. And from Chongqing direct flight to Los Angeles, it's about a 14 and a half hour flight. And I think I would be putting myself more in danger by getting on a plane, flying back to the United States than I would if I just stayed here.
That's interesting. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The one thing, and I think when you opened the door earlier and spoke to your family there, what are you fluent in all the languages at this point?
No, no. I think I know the language more than I give myself credit for, but I definitely don't know it as well as I should. I mean, I know guys that have been here for a year that are not quite fluent, but pretty close to it. I know enough to be dangerous. I can ask where the bathroom is. I can order food. In listening to my girlfriend's conversation with her parents, if the conversation goes on long enough, I can pick out some words and get a general idea of what the conversation is about. I understand more. I can read more than I can actually speak it. So that's where I'm at with the language.
Well, I tell
I
you,
have
this
all this
is
free time, so
yeah,
I should be studying like every day, but I'm not.
yeah.
So
Well, I got to tell you, this has been really interesting. I think that we're not getting. I'm seeing a lot of stuff on Twitter, and you don't really know what to believe or feel. So this has been really great and hopefully helpful, not just to my viewers, but whoever else happens to see this. But I know we've put your YouTube channel across your when you were talking several times. Real quick, how can people
thank
get
you.
in touch with you? What platforms are you on?
I'm on Facebook. Actually, my Facebook is maxed out on my friends, and I've got to actually reboot my voiceover Facebook page. I'm also on. I just started Twitter, so I'll get you the Twitter information. You can flash that across the screen if you want.
Okay.
Instagram, and I'll give you that information. And then
Okay.
really, my main way of communicating has been through the comment section on my YouTube channel.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
and of
So
course,
that's great.
if any of, say again.
No, I was going to say we do have a link. We'll have a link below to all of that for our viewers to
Okay.
make sure they get that. So great. So any final thoughts? I mean, I guess the thing. The only thing I can think of is it's to me interesting. I have a perception of China. It seems like you're getting a lot of information about these ships and things like that. Do you feel that anything is being uh, stopped, any type of information, or where do you get your information on what's happening there?
Well, I do get it from the West. I've got a VPN that I use, so I get the same. I get the same access to
Okay.
everything that you have access to. In addition to that, through the post, so WeChat is the China version of Facebook. So people post news on that, and a lot of it's in English. I get some information from my friend Mikael Larson. He's from Denmark. He's been here for like 10 years and has been a unbelievable resource for me. But he works for Chongqing, which is a government agency here. So they have a website in English. It's ichongqing.com or .info. I'll get it for you. But I go to that, and my Tsui Tsui, my girlfriend, she's got people that are she knows people in Wuhan and all over. And I've just asked her that, if there's any bit of information that you feel I should know about, let me know about it. And then her and I have a conversation. We do the translation. So a majority of it comes from her.
Okay, that's interesting. So, any final thoughts, or I'm like I said, I'll make sure we have this on several of the channels and where we've got mutual friends. Any final thoughts before
Okay.
we wrap up?
Let me just share two things. We talked about this earlier. We didn't go about it into too much detail, but in the Western media, you see a lot of China's hiding the numbers, China's doing this, and I've been asked that question. Do I think that China's hiding information here? And to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if we go back and look at their history, there's a very good possibility that they have. Again, I don't want to go down that path and say, well, they shouldn't be doing this, they should be doing this. I'm just looking at it from a humanitarian standpoint. There are people, that are dying in Wuhan. There are doctors that are dying in Wuhan, and you've probably heard the stories of the one doctor that released the information about it. He got detained, excuse me. He got detained, and then he unfortunately ended up dying of the virus. But I would encourage your listeners and subscribers that let's not make it about what the government should be doing or shouldn't have done. Make it about the people that need help. There are doctors in Wuhan. They are running very low on medical supplies. They need masks, and they need specific masks, the N95 mask. They need protective eyewear, and they need the protective clothing. And the protective clothing, they're not actually like hazmat suits. They're about 6 layers of clothing that they put on so that they can take care of these people who are sick. Not only that, before they don these suits on, they're putting on adult diapers so that they can wear these suits as long as they possibly can. I won't go into detail what that means, but you get the point. When somebody's having to wear adult diapers to extend the life of the suit, it tells you how serious the situation is in Wuhan. And not only Wuhan, but there's other cities within that province, the Hubei province, that are out of supplies. Chongqing is running low on supplies. And I want to stress how important that is, that if the people on the front line are dying because they don't have the proper medical equipment and resources, then that's when this could really become a problem. And it's already it's very close to being a pandemic. But hopefully it'll never get to that point, and hopefully they'll get this thing squashed. But they need help, so I would just encourage you, your viewers, to find a resource that they can funnel this through. And the government, all you'd have to do is a Google search, and you'll find plenty of nonprofits that will make sure that these doctors get the supplies that they need. So let's not make it about what China didn't do or how they dropped the ball or maybe the information that they may be covering up. Because I will tell you, and we know this, the truth always has a way of surfacing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It has a way of surfacing. Right now, the priority is making sure the doctors on the front line have the resources and the equipment they need, and that these people are getting healed and taken care of. So that's kind of my 2 cents on, or I guess my closing remarks that you asked for. So,
well, that's great. Why don't you hang on? I'm going to wrap up here, and we'll follow up in a second here. But my final comments is, thank you. This is great. This is really informative for me and hopefully a lot of other people. Again, we have all of Patrick's information below. Follow him. Subscribe to his channel to stay on top, not just on this, but he's got a pretty cool story of what he's doing, an American in China, as I think we'll label this. But so again, this is Michael Loftus for Wealth and Wisdom TV, and we say we're, education's the key, and this is what we try and do here. It's not just about finances, it's about other things. I mean, we can look at charts all day, but these are things that impact our decisions. And I think that this was great. Hopefully great for everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.